Civil disobedience was a common form of protest during the 1950s and 60s. The civil rights movement was a time of reform. African Americans used nonviolent protests as a way to gain their civil rights. Their struggle has been happening long before the civil rights movement and is even still happening now. This leads me to my question of, to what extent did the civil rights protests actually yield results? These two people right here, Martin Luther King Jr. and Bob Dylan, they inspired me to write about this. Martin Luther King Jr. was a civil rights activist. He was the president of the Southern Leadership Conference. He was one of the main activists for this movement. Bob Dylan, he was a singer-songwriter who was also an activist. He wrote the song "Blowing in the Wind." This one quote, "How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free?" was one of the main reasons this inspired me. I think it relates to my question, meaning how long will it take for change to actually happen? But since the civil rights movement, progress has actually happened. One of the main things that has happened is that segregation has been outlawed. Now it's legal for public places to segregate based on race. Since Martin Luther King states that I can only respond that I have fought too hard and long to end segregated public accommodations to segregate my own concerns, meaning that you shouldn't have to have the same ideas as others. He wants to have a change. And to further go into this graph shows the percent of adults who have a high school diploma through 1964 to 2015. In 1964, white Americans, there was a 51% high school diploma, whereas African Americans, this yellow line, had a 27% chance. Fast forwarding to 2015, there is now a less than 5% difference between the amount of high school adults who have high school diplomas. That means big changes happened since then. Even though it took time, things have happened. And this may be an effect of the economy. Since 1980, the black middle class has risen. Though this may be because of the raising economy, it could also lead to the chance that change has happened. In 1980, their average income for the black middle class was around $30,000. In 2016, it is now up to around $39,500. That took about 30 years, but it does still show change. And none of this would have happened without their determination. Their determination was a big part in how they achieved this progress. Imagine if President Kennedy asked you to stop what you were doing. How would you feel? Obviously, African Americans did not feel that it was their time to stop, so they continued on with their journey to gaining civil rights. While doing this, nonviolence was a key part in this. They never wanted to focus on the violent part because they thought that nonviolence could cause more of a change than violence. In this picture, it just shows that protests can lead to change. This leads to my solutions. Now, this may be an obvious solution, but it is very simple. Everybody becomes kinder to one another. But there is a big problem with this. There are racists and groups who just don't like African Americans, and we cannot change their views. And everybody is an overstatement, meaning that it would be hard to get everybody to feel that way. Another solution, which is a lot more difficult, is that the government enforces a law that makes discrimination against certain races, against all races, illegal. But the law would still have to be enforced, meaning that it would cost. We don't know how much that would cost, depending on how they enforce it. But since the 2020 elections are coming up, the presidential candidates might use this to advantage, but might not actually do anything about it. So this is what teacher cited, my work cited.
Okay, a couple questions for you, Maddie. The first one is, what information did you need before you began your research, and how did that information shape your research?
I needed to find out what actual change, other than desegregation, has happened. So I feel like that's one of the main ideas that main points that the civil rights movement has achieved. But I think that finding like the middle class and the high school has really helped shape my argument and led to a deeper idea of the civil rights movement.
Good. And then the second one is, what advice would you have for other researchers who consider this topic?
I would say that it does take work, but you need to look into like the different topics, like economically. I didn't think that way at first, but when I found a quote, I looked more into it. And when I found that graph, I found that time has really changed, and that they need to look into further into the topic